The Aggies, the Jazz, the high schools. If it's the sport you care about, we're talking about it. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Hour 2 the high school football show. It is going to be a high school football show here. Football. Absolutely. Yeah. Eric Frandsen, Ajay, Salvesen here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, streaming on 106.9thefan.com. Happy to have you join us wherever and however you're doing. So hope your Friday has been wonderful, and we hope you enjoy the high school football coverage we've got to you. Every team is covered. Bear River, Green Canyon, Skyview, Logan, Ridgeline, Mountain Crest. They're all covered with great play-by-play and color analysts, and of course, recaps can be found on CashValleyDaily.com tomorrow morning. If you miss any of the action, don't you dare worry. And we also have a pretty cool contest we're putting together. It is set up, it is ready to go, and you can be a part of it. We'll get into that in just a few minutes. Hey, really quickly, I want to have you read that text from 9315 if you still have it.
Yeah.
He brought up a great point. And then John Russell also texted me something really good as well.
Yeah, 9315 says, think of all the football recruiting rules that will have to be altered or changed for 1 year because football is not on the same page. Good point. And we asked Gary Anderson about recruiting in high school, and there have been some restrictions about in-person recruiting during a lot of this stuff, and he was hopeful that the NCAA would change that and at least allow you to recruit in your own state and go to the football games that are going on. Not every state is playing football this fall.
That's a good point.
I mean, there's a lot of states surrounding Utah
that big-time high school football states.
Yeah, there's no high school football in New Mexico, and Nevada, and California, and Washington. So it's going to be, recruiting at high school level is going to be very different this year.
Yeah, and John Russell texted me, or texted in, this has nothing to do with the players' health, talking about college football. It's all about money. That's why the Ohio Valley Conference is allowing non-conference games. They are money games. The Big Ten and the SEC are the wealthiest conferences. They can handle the most risk. They are the wealthiest conferences, yes, but at the same time, like, you're asking them to put kids' lives at risk from a contagious disease of COVID-19. And sure, there going to be the people who say it's an overreaction. But that's a lot of money to risk on the line. And then in regards to the money games, that's a really good point. If you can find a big team who wants to host you and you can get paid for playing them, you'll take that money because there's a lot of schools who aren't going to get it this year.
It's just the sad reality of trying to operate an athletic department in 2020.
Yeah, it's
or just the 21st century period.
Mm-hmm. Again, welcome to the Full Court Press, 106 on FM, 1390 AM, The Fan, 106onthefan.com if you are joining us via the stream. Eric, we've got a lot to get to here. Al Lewis will be joining us. The Hall of Famer will be talking about Logan Grizzlies Football. You'll find that game on 610 AM KVNU, where they will host the Provo Bulldogs, tonight at 7 o'clock. But we got to get to our Pick 6.
Yeah, we haven't done a Pick 6 yet for this week, so we didn't get a chance to get it in last.
We need to clear something up,
last
Eric.
Hour.
Does our 2 wins cancel out? We have to give each other a gift?
I don't know, because I went a perfect 6-0 in week 1. I feel like I deserve something for that.
Went an incredible 5-1 in a very difficult set of lines. So I feel
this last week?
Yeah.
You didn't get 5 right. You only got 3 right.
Geez, did you go 0-6?
No, I think I got 1 right. I got 1 right this last week. I totally flipped it the other way around.
All right, let's get to our Pick 6. You all know the game. 3 lines from each of us. Yes or no's, high or lows, over-unders, so on and so forth. Best line does get a gift, maybe, at some point during the 2020 year.
That you get on your own, not just somebody else brought things in and you say, oh, yeah, take one of those. That's for me.
All right, Eric, why don't you go ahead and kick it off for us, my man?
All right, Damian Lillard. He's been on fire the last 3 games that he's played. Mm-hmm. Plus 50, plus 60, then again plus 40. How many points scored? Damian Lillard points versus Memphis. 32.5.
Oh, over.
Think the over?
Oh, yeah. This is a must-win. And when it's a must-win, Damian's taking every single shot.
I'm going to take the under.
What?
I think it'll be like 30-31, but I think he's going to get some help from his buddies. It won't have to be all on him.
Good for you. All right. Do you want me to go switch it up?
Sure.
Okay. Let's go. Yeah, never mind. Sorry. Let's go Memphis and Portland on Saturday. I have Ja Morant, 6.5 assists, over under.
6.5?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take the over.
I'm going to take the under. I think Portland shuts him down.
Portland doesn't shut anybody down.
Yeah, that's questionable.
Defensively, they're not really the best.
McCollum and Lillard? Back? Oh, that's brutal. Okay. Fair enough.
Okay. Don't look now, but the Chicago Cubs are the best team in baseball.
Jeez.
They are 13-3. They own baseball's best record.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday, they faced the Brewers. Division rival. So I'm going to say runs scored by the Cubs on Saturday, setting it at 5.5.
Okay, give me that line again.
Runs scored by the Cubs against the Brewers, 5.5.
I feel like there's a trick to this, that you're trying to pull something underneath my feet.
No, it's...
I'm going to go under.
Okay, I'm going to take the over.
You would. Hey, last time Ridgeline and Pineview met, they burned out the light bulbs on the scoreboard. That was a nuts game. Does the same thing happen tonight under new head coach Travis Cox? Ridgeline, 23.5 points tonight. Over, under.
I'm going to take the over.
I'm going to take the over as well. I think this is another shootout.
I think they just have a lot more experience on the team. I think they're going to be ready to go, excited to play. Excitement with the new coach.
Okay.
I'm going to take the over. Last one from me, NHL playoffs. The Coyotes and the Blackhawks have had some close games in their respective series. They have yet to get a win. Who gets their first win first in their series? The Coyotes or the Blackhawks?
Blackhawks.
I'm going to go with the Coyotes.
Skyview's without Mason Falklift, but again, they have this Carlson kid who's a heck of a quarterback, but they don't have Mr. Do-It-All. Stansbury tonight. Stansbury beat Mountain Crest in a thrilling playoff game last year. Skyview, 14.5. Over, under. They win.
Their margin of victory?
Yeah.
They're playing Stansbury?
Yep. At home. 14.5. I should have raised that.
I'm going to take the... I'm going to take the over.
Yeah. I should have raised it. I was going to raise it. I wasn't sure. I didn't want to sell it too much. I'm taking the over too. Gosh.
All right, let's run through them real quick. Here they are. Damian Lillard points versus Memphis. I guess I'm going to have to be specific. That'll be for Saturday, by the way.
Yeah, Saturday's game.
Saturday's game.
We don't know if we'll have a Sunday game.
We don't know if a Sunday's going to happen.
Fair enough.
32.5 points. I took the under. You took the over. I'm going to lose that one. Ja Morant assists in that same game. You set it at 6.5. I took the over. You took the under. Runs scored by the Chicago Cubs versus the Milwaukee Brewers on Saturday at 5.5. I took the over. You went under. Ridgeline points versus Pineview, and set it at 23.5. We both took the over. Coyotes or Blackhawks? Who gets their first win in their series first? I took the Coyotes. You took the Blackhawks. And then the final one, the Skyview margin of victory over Stansbury, set at 14.5, and we both took the over.
Should be fun.
Yeah.
All right, speaking of fun, we're going to have some fun here coming up next. Al Lewis, a Hall of Famer, radio Hall of Famer himself, will be joining us here on the Full Court Press. He is the play-by-play voice, of course, of the Logan Grizzlies. Excited to hear his voice call some action. I don't think anybody's more excited about football than Al Lewis.
This is going to be his only outlet, too. With no Utah State football?
Yeah.
He's going to... Boy, those are going to be the most prepared Logan High football broadcasts.
And no one better. Honestly, we love all our broadcasters. It's hard to beat Al Lewis. It's hard to top Al Lewis. So, again, we'll have him back here. We're going to talk Logan Grizzlies football. I'm going to ask him a little bit about Utah State football as well, the situation, and his thoughts on – I didn't even got to hear his thoughts on Jason Shell. I'd love to hear his thoughts, who will be a senior next year when the season starts, most likely. That's all coming up on the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen and Ajay Salvesen.
A new home for the Full Court Press. Weekday afternoons from 4 to 6 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Eric Frandsen and Ajay Salvesen here on the Full Court Press, 5:14 your time. 6 o'clock, Region 11 football kicks off starting Ridgeline and Pineview in its neutral site game. And 7 o'clock, the rest of Region 11 will do their thing. In fact, Green Canyon will be at Tooele, Bear Rivers at Juan Diego, Skyview hosts Stansbury, Logan hosts Provo, Mountain Crest hosts Salem Hills. Again, Ridgeline will be a neutral site game versus Pineview. Now joining us here on the Full Court Press, always a blast to have a Hall of Famer on, and this is exactly who he is, Al Lewis, play-by-play voice of the Logan Grizzlies. Al, how we doing?
Well, I'm doing very good today. I'm outside and it's warm, and I guess we finally get some live action high school sports for the first time since last March, I guess. So.
Feels like it, yeah. It feels like it's been a long time. Al, this Logan Grizzlies team, a second-year coach for Coach Bowen. They do lose quite a few starters. What do you see out of the squad?
They are new. Obviously, when the move by Ike Larson to Skyview took away their best football player maybe from the last 2 years, so Logan High football really, and the impact he was to the game, especially last year. He was responsible for 12 touchdowns individually last year for the Logan football team, again in returning kicks and returning interceptions and fumbles and then catching 6 touchdown passes. So having him move to Skyview obviously is a big void, but Coach Bowen in his second year said, hey, I've had more time to put in my systems. I think he really would like to be a running football coach. Last year, eventually they had a 1,000-yard rusher at the end of the year in Thornley who graduated. Again, they feel like they've got a group of running backs. They feel like they're going to look at both quarterbacks. They've got a senior and a junior, and it's kind of interesting. Provo might even play 2 quarterbacks tonight, and I believe theirs are juniors and sophomores. So both teams might be in rotation tonight in these first games. But, yeah, Logan only returns Jalen Sargent on offense, a little bit of Alex Trujillo starting at fullback some last year, and then on the offensive line, Dallas Esplin and Brandon Perez-Willie, and that's really it. And then on defense, Jalen Sargent and Jalen Hoth are really the only starters over on that side who played a lot at the end of the year. I think they'd like to play Jalen Sargent more as a backup on defense and use him more as a wide receiver because already a couple Big Sky schools have given him a chance to be a football receiver for him in the future.
Al, this is a team that, while they're certainly a lot of questions about what's going to happen offensively, but this is a team that seemed like, and maybe it's because of Isaac Larson, what he did defensively and what he meant to them, but it seemed like this Logan team still had some players that could stand out and hold their own defensively. Is that still going to be the case this year, or are there still some questions?
Well, they got to have somebody replace like a Shot Bell who made so many plays. A guy to replace Taylor Thompson last year, Andrew Thompson, who made so many plays defensively. They got to have somebody come forward defensively. I think they like Cameron Cottle in kind of a spot to play everywhere. Kai Lang is really impressed as a linebacker. He's only a sophomore, really good athlete, so they're looking forward to him to be a part of their team, and they've had a move in from Payson that they think will help really defensively and also maybe a little offensively too, in Matthew Mason. And even his dad has been an assistant coach for a while at Payson, and he's come up and they've moved to the Valley, and he's going to help be part of Coach Bowen's offensive staff too, and helping be the quarterback coach, even though his son is a free safety and might see a little bit of time as kind of a fullback H-back type on offense.
Al, what has Coach Bowen said about preparations through coronavirus and the situation of having to prepare late? How's the preparation gone for the kids? Does he feel like his squad's prepared?
Oh, yeah. In fact, he said practices has really been really good. What they've decided to do, they practiced almost all late in evenings. Not a lot of kids, obviously, are working like they've done before. And when they got into it, they've been practicing 7:30 to 9:30, 10 o'clock at nighttime when it's been a little bit cooler, and they've actually enjoyed that. He said even before that, their off-season preparation, Coach Bowen was so great when my daughter passed, and he brought some of the players up one afternoon, and they all indicated they were into workouts already. I think all the high school athletes, a lot of them, Ajay, have really been like chomping at the bit since they got shut down for the spring sports they might do, whatever it happens to be. And I think they've all just been looking forward to competition. And once they could get into some of the off-season workouts, I think they really got excited about that. And he feels like he has much more enthusiasm and excitement about this team. Remember, there's only 14 seniors who will probably play any part of a role on this team with not many starters back. So this is a young team that might be still about a year away from starting to be a good football team.
You know, looking at the schedule for Logan High, it's really interesting that Logan High is going to get a lot of film on Region 11 opponents just by studying who they face next. They're going to play Stansbury in Week 2, who Skyview's playing in Week 1, Cypress in Week 3, who Ridgeline will play in Week 2, and Highland in Week 4, who Skyview will play in Week 3. So they're going to get some pretty good film on the Bobcats and the Riverhawks just as they're preparing for the teams that are on their non-conference or non-region.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, and the region is such a short, condensed deal, you know, when they play through those 5 games, when they finally get to it, they're all pretty intense and head-to-head games. So they should get some of that good preparation. And, you know, Coach Bowen hasn't gone out and exactly scheduled cupcakes. He scheduled, you know, 2 6A teams on his schedule right now because Hunter is their bye week or their UEA week game. And then you've got Cypress in there, and then you've got, you know, Provo's a 5A team. So they're not playing easy schedule, and Stansbury is one of the best teams in 4A that they're playing in the preseason.
Al, what's your overall thoughts of Region 11 this year? No Mason Falsov. Does it open it up at all for a chance for a different region champ, or no?
Well, sure. I think Mason's so good in anything he does that, I said generationally, you've got, you know, people who've been through this valley, who've been great players, great athletes. You're talking Merlin Olsen, you're talking Bob Labritsky, you're talking, you know, maybe Mason Falslift. I mean, in that category, I mean, he may rank into that when you start looking at the kinds of athlete that he is. So it has to open a little bit. I would think that both Green Canyon and Ridgeline feel like, okay, we have a chance. And I think Mountain Crest, Bear River, and Logan all think they're better than they were a year ago. So I think that makes it more more of there'll be more interesting games. And I think all the games last year were kind of interesting. I mean, Logan actually scored on Skyview a little bit more than a lot of people would have expected because I thought they were pretty dang good defensively too. But Logan had a tough time in some close games last year. Against Provo, they're only down 14-7 in this opener last year with about 40 seconds in the first half. And they gave up 2 touchdowns, and then the opening kickoff at the second half, and they were done. So they cannot do those kinds of things and give up big plays and big, huge things to have any kind of year.
Al, with this, you kind of touched on this a little bit with how this team has been practicing, what they've been doing in light of everything going on with the coronavirus and pandemic. But how many of these players were involved in like spring sports that you were aware of that had those seasons taken away from them, baseball, things like that, that this is their first opportunity to get back into team sports and team athletics?
Well, I know there's a lot of them, and so that's why, I think that's been the reason why some of the preparation and some of that has been good. And, you know, and I should also mention that Coach mentioned he doesn't have anybody who has really missed any time because of worries, testing, anything like that with COVID. So the Grizzlies have been able to stay away from that, and they hope to stay that way the next little while. So I think they're really excited to play.
Radio Broadcasting Hall of Famer Al Lewis joining us here. He's a play-by-play voice of the Logan Grizzlies on 610 AM KVNU, our sister stations where you'll hear that. Hey, tell us about this Provo squad. What do you see the keys for the Grizzlies tonight to be able to get a win?
They're going to have to run the ball. And last year, Mason Cobb, their middle linebacker, was a 2-year guy. He's done college football. He was a 2-time All-Stater in 5A and was one of the best players in the state. Logan couldn't run the ball at all against Provo last year. And then they gave up a few too many big plays at wrong times. Provo's turned things around. They do have, again, their coach, that was Tony McGarry, who had kind of taken this program out of the doldrums and got them back going. They were 9-3, and they won their region, and they were a second-ranked team in 5A going into the playoffs, and they ended up losing in the quarterfinals. But Kurt Chambers has taken over. Here's a guy, he was in the NFL, I think, about 9 or 10 years, played a lot with the Buffalo Bills, was a former Provo guy, and then he went to Stanford and then played for 2 or 3 NFL teams. So he's taken over, and he said, hey, Coach McGarry, turn this program around. They don't have a huge roster. They don't have a big roster. But again, teams are kind of restricted on how many they can dress for games anyhow. So maybe that's just the roster they have on the road, and it's not as many players. But they've got a lot of young kids. They got some sophomores and juniors. They mentioned a sophomore quarterback could play. So I think Provo now is a better football program. And they've got a few names that go along with some guys who've been at BYU. So I'm thinking maybe that's some brothers or somebody who's moved into Provo to be a part of the football team. I noticed they have a Hefo, they have a Taki. So they got some guys who at least have some good football names and heritage that have played at BYU.
Al, nobody covers Aggie football like you do. Your preparation for it's always been incredible. No season this year, which is heartbreaking for so many of us. I never did get the chance to get your thoughts on the Jason Shelley transfer from Utah to Utah State and Henry Colomby going from Utah State back to Texas Tech with Matt Wells.
Yeah, I really expected that it looked like. I'm just wondering if, another offensive coordinator into Columby's, quarterback room at Logan had some effect on all of that, plus the transfer. I'm just wondering, he'd been through, Yost, and had one season, and then now Bodie Reeder was going to come in. So I'm just wondering if that had something to do with it. You got to have people have got to be satisfied with where they are nowadays. Young kids, let's face it, they have a lot less of a rope for patience as far as waiting their turn. And I think Colomby had performed. I was ready to see him do things. Now I think Shelley obviously is a terrific athlete, and his pedigree is great. And now will we see him play 3 or 4 spring football games, and then or whatever, and then see a full season of 2021? That's, I guess, the best we can hope for at this point.
You've seen so much Aggie football through the years. Where does Jordan Love rank in the quarterback grades of who you've seen over the Utah State football?
Boy, the production he had as a sophomore, I don't think I've ever seen anything like it as far as the season goes. And I don't know if it was just the new system and whatever that threw it in last year, because it wasn't quite the same. Let's face it, he's got to have talent-wise as good as anybody who's been in here in the quarterback position. I mean, Bill Munson was drafted, I think, 4th or 5th in the first round of the draft back in the 60s. We haven't had a heck of a lot of quarterbacks who've been drafted. We've had a couple of guys, Eric Hipple and Craig Bradshaw, and some guys who played a little in the NFL. Tony Adams was a very, very good quarterback. I think production-wise that year, Tony Adams, the one year he had as a senior, might have been the only other quarterback I ever saw who could just reel off play after play after play like Jordan Love did.
With this announcement by the Mountain West, I mean, this is unprecedented, obviously. It's never happened anything like this before. But in your mind, in your history of covering Utah State, there have been a few other disruptions that have happened because of hurricanes that have affected opponents, or 9/11, things like that. I mean, how does this compare to anything that you've ever seen with Utah State or college athletics?
Well, it doesn't compare at all, because I'm sure all the players, if you probably ask them, even though, some of these polls now are coming out and some of the coaches are saying, their players say it was a good decision to shut down. I think all of them wanted to play, or all of them wanted to go at it. They don't work as hard as they do to not have a chance to play. So I think it's unprecedented to have the whole season on. We had to play David Carr and Fresno State at the end of the year that one year after the 9/11 deal, postponed during the year. We had plane crashes with teams coming here. Yeah, we've had a hurricane or something like that. I remember we didn't play Nicholls State one year, but that's nothing like losing the whole season and losing all that momentum. And again, let's face it, economics-wise, sports places like Utah State are really in trouble because they lost all that money from the NCAA basketball tournament last year they didn't get. They already said they had that hit of $1 million on last year's budget. Now this year's budget is going to have nothing in it. It's going to be a really, really hard time because we just don't have the big money that obviously the Power Fives do.
And do you see a spring season? I mean, Gary is very highly doubtful about it, but do you see it being possible?
There's no way they can play any more than maybe 3 or 4 games, kind of like your scrimmages you have in spring football, to be able to physically turn around and play a team at the end of August or 1st of September a full season. I just don't see this any way. And they're going to have to do it. Obviously, you're going to have to fit it in before May 1st, because that's not when graduation is. You don't want to go much after school's already graduated, because keeping the players around and that when school's not on is never an ideal. And then if you're going to play more than that, you're going to start in February. Then you're affecting basketball, and weather around here is not that great. So I have a hard time seeing very many games in the spring.
Al, what station are you on tonight, and what time does pregame start?
We'll start about 6:45 on 610 AM and 102 and 102.5 FM.
Al, thanks so much for your time. Greatly appreciate you. Good luck on tonight's call.
All right. Well, the game will be what makes it happen tonight. I'll just watch it, okay?
Your voice makes everything happen for us. We appreciate you greatly,
I just love it. So.
All right. Thanks, Al. Appreciate it.
That's Al Lewis, Radio Broadcaster Hall of Fame from the state of Utah. Wonderful, wonderful talent that we have here calling these games, and I'm excited about Al's call, and obviously he's excited to have football back. A guy who covers the Aggies for pregame coverage, post-game coverage for football, does a wonderful job on KVNU. Won't have that this fall. I felt bad for him, as bad as I felt for myself and you, that we couldn't talk Aggie football. That guy he bleeds Aggie blue like nobody else does, and he won't get to have that this fall. That's a bummer for him. So grateful there's Grizzly football at least.
And as I said, the Logan High football broadcast will be as prepared as anyone will find in the state, because that will be Al Lewis's only outlet. So
here's the schedule for tonight. The Green Canyon Wolves are at Tooele. Craig Hislop will be on the call on 100.9 FM, and there's a stream. Now, you can go to CashValleyDaily.com, go to the menu bar, click on sports, and then local high school football. And you will find all the streams. Just click on it, and boom, right there at your computer or your phone or wherever, you can listen to the games. The Green Canyon will be at Tooele on 100.9 FM, starring Craig Hislop. Bear River Bears, 104.9, and the Bear River live stream. That's where the great Clint Payne, who's coming out of retirement, will be back to call Bear River High School football. They are at Juan Diego. Skyview versus Stansbury, none other than John Newbold and his partner in crime, Rex Davis, here on this very station, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan. Logan Grizzlies, of course, Al Lewis on 610 AM, 102.1 FM, and KVNU. They are hosting Provo. Mountain Crest and Salem Hills, starring AJ Knight and Matt Adams, will be on 107.7, and Ridgeline is at Pineview. That game is in 30 minutes. Pre-game is in about 15. That means Eric's got to get going here. He's got to take care of some high school stuff. That game will be on 104.5 FM and the Ridgeline live stream. Again, you can find those streams on CashValleyDaily.com. Dave Simmons and Nick Zollinger, two comedians at their very best, will be calling that game tonight.
Ajay, I'm excited for high school football Friday nights to be back, especially similar to college football. We don't know if these high school seasons will finish.
Yeah.
But if there's a way to get them to happen and games to happen, there may be games here and there that do get postponed or canceled. But I think there's still a way for it to still take place and happen. So I'm excited to see how it works. Hopefully we have some exciting games. And I'm excited for everybody that gets involved and really appreciative for everybody that puts in a lot of work and effort behind the scenes to make this really come together with so many different broadcasts and different locations and different studios. It's a big task, but we appreciate it. We love doing it. So it's a good time of year.
All right, Eric's got to get to the ball, and I will continue to stay here. We got a really cool high school football contest going on. Thank you, Eric. We got a really cool high school football contest going on. We're going to tell you about that and more coming up next here on the Full Court Press on 106.9 The Fan.
The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Ajay Salvesen here on the Full Court Press. 5:34 your time. Eric is now off getting ready for some high school football duties. You know, it's good to have high school football back. I think after a long week of hearing just all bad news throughout the week, right? With MAC football and then Mountain West Conference football and the unsurety of what winter sports is going to look like. It's good to have high school football action back. It started last night with Davis and Harriman. Again, 48 other games go on tonight, or at least 48 other teams, I should say, or games go on tonight. And all of them, or a lot of them, in Region 11. In fact, all 6 teams are competing in Region 11. Again, just a reminder, Green Canyon at Tooele. That game's on 100.9 FM with Craig Hislop. Bear River at Juan Diego. Clint Payne will be on the call on 104.9 FM. Skyview versus Stansbury. John Newbold, Rex Davis. Logan versus Provo will be with Al Lewis. And then Mountain Crest versus Salem Hills will be AJ Knight and Matt Adams. Ridgeline at Pineview will begin at 6 o'clock. That will be on 104.5 FM and will be heard by Nick Zollinger, who will be the color analyst, alongside his buddy of all time. It's Dave Simmons, who does a really great job. Enjoy listening to those two. And Green Canyon, I believe John Russell is going to be helping call that game at Tooele, if I'm not mistaken. John, if I'm wrong, text me, let me know I'm wrong. So again, Green Canyon at Tooele, Bear Rivers at Juan Diego, Skyview hosts Stansbury, Logan at home against Provo, and Mountain Crest will host Salem Hills. Ridgeline is at Pineview. That's a neutral site game. That game was supposed to be played in southern Utah, but because the Cache Valley School District is not allowing any overnight trips with the coronavirus situation, they've decided to play a neutral site game at Westlake. And so they'll play there, and then Ridgeline can just travel home on the same night. Now, with that, really cool thing that we're doing, 106.9 The Fan is doing a high school pick'ems contest. Now, it's sponsored by the Logo Shop, and we're huge fans of the Logo Shop and thank them so much. They're your Booster Club headquarters for high school and competitive teams. Here's the deal. You hop on to the Pick'em website, and you do this Pick'em contest for all of our games going on tonight. Green Canyon, Bear River, Skyview, Logan, Mountain Crest, and Ridgeline. And you can pick all the games. In fact, they have a tiebreaker score game, which I believe tonight is Mountain Crest and Salem Hills for your tiebreaker. You just go to pick'em.com, I believe is the website, and then pick your games. And you can win up to a bunch of prizes. In fact, this week we are giving away $100 to McDonald's. Think about that, $100 to McDonald's. You can win. Now, don't forget, download the McDonald's app and you can place your order wherever and whenever you'd like. McDonald's has pickup options like drive-thru and curbside pickup, all at the touch of a button. Future giveaways will be, of course, a $100 gift card to Locker 42, which is awesome. You'll have a $100 gift card to the Cater Shop, Johnny O Spud Nuts, again, McDonald's. So a lot of great prizes we got going on through the course of the giveaway and the Pick'ems contest, where you can go out and you can just pick your games of whatever you would, I guess not whatever you would like, but just whatever you think would be best in the Pick'em contest. This thing is so hard. I struggled last time I did this, actually. I didn't do so well. I'm just making sure I got the website right here. Sorry. Producing live on air is really hard to do. There we go. It's the CacheValleyMediaGroup.com/high school pick'ems. And you can just type in your information, name and email. You create an account. It's really super easy. And boom, just like that, you are playing Pick'em high school football, or is it high school pick'em? Again, that's at CacheValleyMediaGroup.com/high school pick'ems. And this week's giveaway will be $100 to McDonald's, and that's all courtesy of the Logo Shop, which we greatly appreciate in being our main sponsor for this awesome contest. Can't wait to see everybody's responses. Again, you go to CacheValleyMediaGroup.com to participate in the contest. Let's talk some high school football. So, throughout the week, you've heard from Ridgeline, Skyview, Mountain Crest, Logan, Bear River, Green Canyon. This year's going to be a little bit different. As Al Lewis already mentioned just earlier on the show, no Mason Falso. Does it open it up a little bit more for Region 11? Mountain Crest has an incredible defense. The problem is they lost a ton of offense. Their quarterback, they lost their running back in Hunter Schroeder, who was incredible. Huge portion of the offense, percentage of the offense went through Hunter Schroeder. Mason Baldwin, gone. They don't have the offense, but they definitely have the defense to hold teams just within reach for an offense to be able to. I mean, honestly, a 13-point output by your offense could win it for Mountain Crest because that defense is so good. Elijah Jackson's back. They got Folger back. This team's going to be really good. Skyview does lose Mason Falso, but they get the Carlson kid back, and of course, as Al mentioned, Isaac Larson leaves Logan and now goes to Skyview. That's a huge playmaker. Isaac Larson, as Al said, one of the best, if not the best player in the last 2 years for Logan. And he's now at Skyview. He's a two-way player. He's a safety on defense. He's a receiver on offense, but he can play. He can play whatever. He can play running back, quarterback, receiver, all at the same time, walk your dog and mow your lawn. He's a talented kid, and I believe he's committed to Utah State, verbally. Skyview's still the four front runner until someone knocks him off. They are the region champions until someone beats them off that pedestal. Is it Green Canyon? Again, they got Jake Lundeen, 1,000-yard passer, 1,000-yard rusher. They've got a running game that is solid. They've got a passing game which can be fluid. The problem with Green Canyon is that they tend to get in their own way. Last year they had a couple of really nice wins, but then had back-to-back losses. They had a close loss to Skyview, but then they had a really bizarre loss to Mountain Crest where they got shut out 6-0. Green Canyon, if they can stay out of their own way, is going to be a huge problem and a very serious contender for the Region 11 championship this year. Ridgeline's another team. A third head coach in 3 years. Think about that. 3 years, 3 head coaches. From Danilo to Travis Van Leeuwen, and now it's Travis Cox, whose son, Caden Cox, is the quarterback now. Travis Cox, you remember, played at Utah State. Played at Mountain Crest before that. Had a stellar career at Mountain Crest. And is now the head coach at Ridgeline. They like to run a spread offense. They can score at will, but can they play defense? Can they get stops? It seemed like their defense had trouble with stops. Their offense really tailed off towards the end until the state playoff game, I believe. Ridgeline can be a contender if they can get the defensive stops. Bear River is another interesting team. Bear River has Josh Payne at quarterback. They have a great running game. If they can utilize the running game, I talked to Clint Payne yesterday. I said, hey, what are the keys for Bear River to be successful and contend for Region 11 championship? He said, simply have a balanced offensive attack. You've got 2 good running backs, one of them being Caden Bucket Jones. Josh Payne's at quarterback. If you can balance the running game with an effective pass game, a.k.a. play action, they're going to be good. Defensively, they should be all right. But Bear River tends to be inconsistent, which they were last year. That's their biggest Achilles heel, is that their inconsistency, whether it's on offense or defense. They really, a lot of the time last year, rarely did they put both offense, special teams, and defense all together for one full game of 48 minutes of football. If they can do that tonight and throughout this season, they could be a contender for the Region 11 championship. I still feel like it's between Skyview, Green Canyon, and Ridgeline. Those are the top 3 teams. I think Mountain Crest, like I said, if they can find a little bit of offense, 14 to 17 points with their defense you got should win you a football game. And for Mountain Crest last year, they were killed by penalties at really bad times and turnovers at extremely bad times. If they can fix those 2 issues, they might have a shot. And Logan, again, second year with Coach Bowen. They lose Isaac Larson, which is a huge gut check for this squad. It's a huge hole to fill. And I'm not sure if they can fill that gap quick enough in 1 year. But again, Logan can surprise you. It wasn't like they were blown out in a lot of games. They competed. The problem is they just couldn't finish off games or they just ran out of steam. Getting off to a hot start against Provo will be a key tonight for Logan. Getting win number 1 is a key for a lot of these teams. Building momentum towards the end of the season. With a win in the opening night, that definitely would help. So again, high school football starts tonight. It's all over the state of Utah. Ridgeline and Pineview start in about 15 minutes. Pregame should be here in just moments, actually, with Dave Simmons and Nick Zollinger. As they're against Pineview, that's at Westlake. It's a neutral site game, changed from playing in St. George because of Cache Valley districts or school district not allowing teams to stay overnight because of COVID-19. Mountain Crest will get Salem Hills. Again, that's on 107.7. AJ Knight, Matt Adams. Logan versus Provo with Al Lewis, 6:10 a.m. and 102.1 FM KVNU. Skyview will play Stansbury, John Newbold, Rex Davis. On this very station, 106.9, 1390 a.m. Bear River with Clint Payne on 104.9. They're at Juan Diego in Green Canyon. With Craig Hislop is on 100.9 FM. If you want to find the streams for those games, you can go to CashValleyDaily.com. You simply go to the menu bar. You go to sports. You go to local prep sports, and then the local high school football schedule, that's where you'll find it. And if you want to be part of the Pick'em contest, go to CashValleyMediaGroup.com/high school football Pick'em. And there you'll be able to enter into the contest to win $100 to McDonald's. It's a lot of McDouble cheeseburgers. That's what I like about it. And by the way, that contest is sponsored by Logo Shop, and a big thank you to them for being a part of our fun contest. We're excited for all of you to participate. Again, so Green Canyon's at Tooele, Bear River at Juan Diego, Skyview hosts Stansbury, Logan hosts Provo, Mountain Crest gets Salem Hills, and Ridgeline is against Pineview at Westlake. Pineview will be the designated home team in tonight's game. That game starts in 15 minutes. Pregame should be starting right now on 104.5 FM with Dave Simmons and Nick Zollinger. Interested to see what high school football looks like. I talked to an athletic director in a different classification. And I kind of asked a similar question of what the discussion is in college football. You start, but can you finish? When I asked the athletic director in this different classification at another school outside the Valley, I asked him, I said, are you worried about not finishing the season? And he said, if you weren't worried, then you're doing this wrong. And I said, well, wait, what does that mean? He said, look, we're going to take all the precautions we need to necessary to make sure our kids are protected. But that doesn't mean that things are going to go sideways. He says, we don't control the narrative here of the coronavirus. COVID-19 controls everything. And when you're asking 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids to follow protocol, to social distance, when we set these things up, and you're asking these kids to follow it, it's hard. It's really, really hard to make sure they're doing it. And we can't keep an eye on every single kid in school. We can't watch what they're doing outside of the school building. That's illegal. All we can do is we hope that they'll be able to take care of themselves, that they'll be smart, that they'll follow protocols and the rules given to them by their state and local governments, so we can have in-classroom education. And it's the interesting part. He didn't say so we can have football. He said so we can have in-classroom education. The most important part for these administrators and this administration all over the state of Utah is to have an education. It's not football. Football's fun. It's a great extracurricular activity, and especially when you can have fans be a part of it. But to make sure that you have in-classroom education. And he said that not only him, but there's a lot of other athletic directors with administrations that are very, very concerned that this won't even make it through week 4. Week 4. That's the over-under. So let's go 4.5 over-under. How far do you think we get through the high school football season? And a lot of administrations, according to this AD, said they're not sure if they make it through week 4. Incredible. Absolutely amazing. All right, let's go ahead and take a break. Coming back, we'll wrap it up here on the Full Court Press. We'll say goodnight, and we'll get you ready for Monday's show on 106.9 The Fan.
The Aggies, the Jazz, the high schools, the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press, 5:52 your time. We are just about an hour away from a major dose of high school football around the state of Utah in every classification, 6A, 5A, 4A, 3A, 2A, and 1A. Ridgeline getting ready to kick off here in just a few minutes as they will play Pineview at Westlake. Pineview is the designated home team. Hey, if you want to find our show, you can go to 1069thefan.com. Just go to podcast and click on it. Or you can find us on our podcast platform. That's Stitcher, iTunes, and Spotify. Type in Eric's name, my name, or the Full Court Press, and you can find all our shows and interviews. Great show today. We've had a lot of fun. We talked some Utah Jazz NBA and their playoff schedule. Playoffs are looking like this. The Lakers will get the play-in winner of Portland and Memphis. Now, Portland is the 8 seed. Memphis is the 9 seed. Which means if Portland beats Memphis on Saturday in the play-in game, Portland gets the Lakers. If Memphis wins, they play on Sunday in a winner-take-all game to get the Lakers on Tuesday night. That game's set for 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And that game will be on TNT. Clippers and Dallas will begin on Monday. That's also at 7 o'clock. That game's on ESPN. Clippers a 2 seed, Dallas a 7 seed. Denver and Utah, 3 versus 6. That game will be on Monday and will be at 11 a.m. 11:30 a.m. 11:20 will be your coverage here on this very station with David Locke and Ron Boone. Game 2 with Utah and Denver will be on Wednesday. That's at 2 o'clock, as is the game on Friday. Game 3 between Denver and Utah. Game 4 is the only, as of right now, evening game. That'll be at 7 o'clock. Games 5, 6, and 7, if necessary, will be to be determined on their times at a later time. If, again, those games get that far. 4 and 5 Oklahoma City versus 4 and 5 Houston. They actually tied for the 4th spot. But because there's no home court advantage, give or take, because this game's on a neutral site court, it really doesn't matter. So it'll be Chris Paul versus James Harden. Russell Westbrook will be out till at least game 3. Their game 1 will start on Tuesday. That'll be at 4:30. In the Eastern Conference, it'll be 1 versus 8, Milwaukee and Orlando. Guess which one's the 1, guess which one's the 8th. First game will be at 11:30 a.m. Toronto versus Brooklyn will start on Monday at 2 p.m. Toronto's the 2 seed, Brooklyn's the 7 seed. Boston's a 3 seed, Philadelphia's a 6 seed. Philadelphia will be most likely without Ben Simmons and is questionable with Joel Embiid for game 1. That will be at 4:30. That game's on ESPN. And 4-5 Miami-Indiana matchup. Derrick Jones Jr. of Miami, by the way, again, was carted off a stretcher after landing awkwardly, taking a screen from an Indiana big man. And they said that the MRI came, or that he's going to go through an MRI. He was moving. After not moving on the court for about 10 or so minutes, they took him back. He had some movement. They are optimistic about his, status on his injury, but not sure when he'll return back to the court. They're doing an MRI later tonight. Miami and Indiana is a 4-5 playoff matchup in the Eastern Conference. That's at 2 o'clock on TNT. By the way, with the Utah-Denver series, Game 1 is on ESPN. Games 2, 3, 4 are on TNT. Games 5 is to be determined. Game 6 Game 6 will be on ESPN. Game 7 will be on TNT. Again, Game 1, Monday at 11:30 a.m. on ESPN, Utah and Denver in the first round of the playoffs, just like back in the good old days, right? That's what makes it fun. Playoff basketball, no fans. Should be a blast. All right. Coming up next, it's going to be high school football. Just a reminder, one more time. Green Canyon's at Tooele. Craig is up on the call, 100.9 FM. Ridgeline is at Pineview. They play here in just a few minutes. That'll be Dave Simmons and Nick Zollinger. That's going to be on 104.5 FM. On 107.7 FM, Mountain Crest will host Salem Hills. AJ Knight, Matt Adams, Logan versus Provo. Al Lewis will be on the call on 610 AM and 102.1 FM. That's KVNU. And, of course, Bear River Bears, Clint Payne coming out of retirement. They host at Juan Diego, 104.9 The Ranch. And on this very station at 6:45, you'll hear from the legendary John Newbold on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM The Fan, as Skyview will host Stansbury. You'll catch all the recaps on CashValleyDaily.com on Monday. That's when we'll talk to you to recap Utah Jazz basketball and high school football. Good night.